Buona giornata! I am Daisy John Marie P. Donaire, will be your tourist guide for this trip to a country which is ranked as a top 5 destination among Filipinos, which is also known as the famous for the Renaissance and the incredible artists it produced, none other than Italy. As temporary workers or permanent residents, about 108,000 Filipinos have legal status in Italy. Estimates of the number of the undocumented Filipinos range greatly from 20,000 to 80,000. Filipino-Italian women, who make up 63% of the population, typically work as domestic helpers. According to the Dolly of the Philippines, Italy now permits 5,000 non-seasonal or regular workers, up from 3,000 in 2023. So I'm certain that you want to move to Italy after hearing how many OFWs there are. To add some information, you should apply for a short-term visa or a Schengen visa if you want to visit Italy for fewer than 90 days. But you will need to apply for a long-stay visa if you intend to move to Italy or remain there for more than 90 days. So Italian contains formal and informal registers, just like many other Romance languages. So like for example, formal speech is used to convey respect. It can be used to address strangers, especially those who are older than you, as well as superiors like your employer. Also, it serves as the default register for people who offer a service, such as waitstaff or retailers. Contrarily, informal speech assumes a certain amount of familiarity and is typically used only with close friends and family. One exemption is young children, who by default communicate with their elders and one another informally until they are in their pre-adolescent years. So for Italian expressions, one of the example is first, non mi va. While the literal translation in English is, it doesn't go for me, Italians use this expression as a way of saying, I do not feel like it, I'm not in the mood for it, or I do not agree. However, if you actually feel like it, you can say, mi va. The second one is in bocca al lupo. The literal translation in English is to be in a wolf's mouth, and as funny as it sounds that Italians use this expression to wish each other good luck before an important event like exam or a meeting, and you thought that the English language was weird for wishing someone to break a leg. So the common response to in bocca al lupo is crepe or crepe al lupo, meaning thank you. So last but not the least is the acqua in bocca. So when an Italian says to you, "Ma ricorda acqua in bocca," he's not actually asking you to keep the water in the mouth. The real meaning of these expressions is to keep a secret. So keep your mouth closed if you don't want to spill the water or the secrets.
Italians are high-context communicators. This means they tend to express themselves indirectly and diplomatically. Allusions and suggestions play an essential role, but verbal statements should always be considered in their overall context. How something is said is often more important than what is said. Facial expressions, gestures, and nonverbal cues are the keys to understanding what is being said. Italians are generally tactile people and are quite affectionate. It is common to see them hugging, kissing, and hand-holding in public. And in conversations, they are animated and dramatic, to the point that foreigners often misinterpret them as arguing, when in actuality they are just passionately agreeing about something. Raised voices are not necessarily a sign of anger, but can be expressed as excitement or conviction. Hand gestures give just as much meaning to them as words. So the pursing of the hands means they are questioning something, the okay sign means they are satisfied, and the chin flick means they don't care. Being direct and clear is considered a positive trait in their culture. Speaking is given more weight than writing, so if you want to clarify something, it is best to speak to them. Emails, letters, and faxes, on the other hand, are often ignored. And a written list of problem points or instructions is also quickly perceived as aggressive. Italians will rarely express criticism openly. The Italian principle of bella figura is the desire to cut a good figure at all times. Similar to another figure of speech that we are familiar with is keeping one's face, meaning to save one's reputation. To Italians, one should not interfere with one's bella figura and instead ensure that they can uphold it. All in all, it is of prime importance to Italians to create an atmosphere in which everyone feels comfortable. Everyone must be confident that no one else will embarrass them. Criticism is only expressed in private and in a very indirect way, making sure to highlight a number of positive things before subtly pointing out any critical points. One of the best ways to observe Italian communication and to communicate with them is to participate in the passeggiata. This ritual promenade takes place in the early evenings when shoppers, families, and young people on the prowl all join the scene to stroll arm in arm.
Countries, time is gold, so one must arrive in time and do things as quickly as possible. Well, some people might get upset or criticize you for being late. But in Italy, there is no rush. While there are people who arrive early depending on social situations, but the difference is it is acceptable to arrive late.
Secondo voi gli italiani sono ritardatari veramente o è solo uno stereotipo? E se è vero, perché? Andiamo a chiederlo agli italiani. Secondo te gli italiani sono ritardatari?
Secondo me gli italiani sono molto ritardatari.
Noi due poi. Le ragazze molto più dei ragazzi, quello sì.
Sì, abbastanza.
Punctuality is not a main concern in Italy because Italians do lots of activities and work. And there are also external hindrances for them not to arrive early, like the train got broken when coming to their meeting place. Often, work plans are not taken strictly and they can be flexible with deadlines. Yeah, perks of working in Italy. Italy's power distance depend on which part of the country you belong to. In northern Italy, they prefer equal rights and decentralization of power and decision-making, especially for the younger generation. While in the southern part of Italy, their power distance is relatively high. In business, your position in the company may determine how you can speak with your superiors and subordinates. And mostly, decisions are made by the higher up and subordinates' opinions are only heard. Italians are masculine because they are success-oriented and driven. They value more on competition, achievement, success, and being a winner more than the quality of life. Italians acquire beautiful cars, big houses, and yachts, and travel to exotic countries to show their success. Italy is also largely male-dominated despite men and women having equal rights. Men are the patriarchs and are considered the primary income earners. But regardless of stereotypes, Italian women receive a high level of education and work to contribute to the household income.
Hey viewers! You've already heard a lot of information about the beautiful country of Italy. But if you were to visit, where would you go? What would you do? Now, don't worry because I have some suggestions for you. I'll be sharing some popular cultural activities, practices, and traditions of Italy. Let's start with cultural activities. So let us all mentally travel to Italy and let's imagine taking a tour in some famous spots. Greetings everyone and welcome to Italy. I am Shekinah Enriquez and I will be your tour guide for this portion. For our first stop, let's go to the Colosseum. It is one of the main tourist attractions in Italy, and despite being over 1900 years old, it is still known as the largest standing amphitheater in the world. Built over the Flavian emperors of the Roman Empire, the Colosseum was used as an entertainment venue. Our next stop is the Vatican Museums. The museum contains a huge collection of 20,000 pieces of artwork obtained by the Catholic Church and the papacy. And our last destination for this imaginary tour is Leaning Tower of Pisa. It is famously known for its noticeable lean, now sitting at approximately 4 degrees. due to the foundation stones being set on soft ground made of clay, shells, and fine sand. There are a lot more places you could visit, but for now, that would be the end of our imaginary tour. Now you have mentally traveled to Italy, you should also know how to act Italian. Here are some practices of basic etiquette in Italy. First, it is common for Italian friends and families to kiss on the cheek when they meet, irrespective of their gender. Second, stand up out of respect when an older person enters the room. Third, it is important to dress neatly and respectfully. Fourth, cover your mouth when yawning or sneezing. Fifth, hats should be removed indoors. Sixth and last, it is impolite to remove one's shoes in front of others. Those are just some of the basic etiquettes in Italy. Now you're a tad bit of Italian. Now, if you want to experience one of Italy's oldest and most celebrated legend, you should try one of their best traditions, the Feast of Epiphany and celebration of La Befana. The Feast of the Epiphany is celebrated January 6th with a national holiday in Italy, and the tradition of La Befana are a big part of Italian Christmas celebrations. Epiphany commemorates the 12th day of Christmas when the three wise men arrived at the manger bearing gifts for baby Jesus. The traditional Christmas holiday season in Italy lasts through Epiphany. Like children around the world, kids in Italy also look forward to the arrival of the red-suited Babbo Natal on Christmas Eve. Wonderful, ain't it? Let's all visit Italy soon, guys. And that would be all for my part. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, I am Aaron Kyle A. Diamante and I am here to share to all of you the 3 basic do's and don'ts for first-time visitors in Italy. Let's start with the do's. Firstly, do remember to look after your belongings as like any big city. You have to be careful about your belongings. Make sure that you keep all of your valuables out of your pockets and always bring a bag that zips closed so that it deters anyone from trying to get your belongings. Second is, do remember to cover your knees and shoulders. Your time in Italy wouldn't be complete without going to St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City or St. Mark's Basilica in Venice. But to enter these amazing churches, you should know that you have to cover your knees and shoulders. Italy is still a very Catholic country and follows the rules of dressing modestly when it comes to going to church, so you won't be able to enter unless you are covered up. Lastly, do be conscious of how you dress. Italians do judge other people based on how they dress, and they can usually tell if you're American and a tourist based on how you dress and present yourself. That means you can bring those flip-flops with you. So let's go with the don'ts. First is, don't forget to learn the basics. Similar to greeting people, Italians love it when you attempt to speak some Italian with them, even if it is obvious that you only know the basics. Learning some of the basic phrases makes it a lot easier to get around the city and speak to the locals. Second is, don't try to wear flip-flops while walking around Italy. You don't need to be the typical American tourist wearing white sneakers all the time, but wearing comfortable shoes while exploring different cities will make a huge difference by the time you're done. Lastly is, don't try to say ciao when first meeting someone. Ciao is reserved for greeting acquaintances and friends. Instead, say buongiorno, or that means good morning, or buona sera, which means good afternoon or good evening. Italians love it when you at least attempt to speak some Italian with them, even if it is obvious that you only know the basics.
Thank you for listening. Again, this has been Group 3, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Arrivederci a tutti.